So, what happens when your life was supposed to look one way, but then you get this devastating diagnosis and you don't know if you're ever going to be able to have children? I mean, that was the essence of my conversation here today with Lauren. And what followed was just this entirely different path where family building for her just had to look different. And then, taking her business mind and just all of the knowledge that she accumulated over the years working in the corporate world, she said, this has to change. Like, we have to make this process of egg donation and egg freezing, we can make it better. And I was so taken with this story, with Lauren's story and about her business, because donor conception is one that so many more people are turning to, especially as people are getting older and older and biology just isn't on their side anymore. And to know that there's something out there that could make things a lot easier from so many perspectives, I thought I just needed to share it all with you. And to be clear, I say this also in the introduction, this is not about promoting her business. I don't have any discount codes. I don't get any kickbacks. Like, there's none of that going on here. This is a story of a woman who said, I can do this better. We can make this easier for people. And I want more people to have access to this, because this is the way the world is going. More and more and more people are turning to donors, donor egg, donor sperm, donor embryos, surrogacy. They're turning to donors to be able to build their families. And so, why not make it easier? So take a listen. It is absolutely, it's so powerful to hear how she came up with this concept and how she's pushing it forward, but also just to hear her own personal fertility story and everything that she went through herself. So take a listen. Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Barron, the founder and executive director of the nonprofit I Was Supposed to Have a Baby. On this podcast, I invite different people to join me in conversations about infertility, pregnancy loss, infant loss, surrogacy, adoption, and so much more. We laugh, we cry, and we challenge the Jewish community to think differently about a topic that has been shrouded in secrecy and shame for so long. So join me as we talk away the taboo. I have lots of conversations with lots of different kinds of people who have fertility stories, people who are experts, people who are therapists, people who are rabbis. But I think it's really unusual for me to have a conversation with someone who runs a business in the fertility space. But when I met Lauren a couple of months ago, I was so fascinated by her own personal story and what she created that we need to have you on here, because I want to tell more people about what you do. And I want to make this very clear. This is not a plug. I don't have a code for you at the end. This is not about if you buy blah, 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 there'll be a kickback to I Was Supposed to Have a Baby. There is none of that here. So I want to just start that out with that disclaimer. This is about Amy, met Lauren, and I just wanted to talk to her, and I want all of you to listen. So here we are. Okay, so Lauren, say hi.
Hi. I'm so excited about this. It feels like a conversation that we were meant to have,
Okay, we know, we're just going to say it off the bat, right?
Yeah.
You run a business called Cofertility, but I am not so interested in the business right now. I'm just actually interested in you.
Yeah.
Tell people about who you are before Cofertility, how you grew up, a little bit about your family life, about your thoughts about what your family might look like as you were getting older, college, blah, blah, blah. Just tell me who you are.
Okay. Whew. I grew up in Rhode Island, and I am the youngest of 3 kids. And I really, had an amazing upbringing and childhood, and always knew that I wanted to be a mom. It just was never a question, and I that really crystallized for me even more when my sister had kids.
She's
And
older than you, I'm guessing.
older, yes, and
Okay.
actually, you're talking to me 2 days before her oldest son's bar mitzvah,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
I
Mazel
feel
tov, first of all.
thank you, but I feel so emotional about it. I feel he to me, and actually, I live in LA now, so a little bit of a fast forward. I live in LA, moved out here after my sister put her roots here, and our home is 4 minutes from my sister's family. And so that
That's
should tell
amazing.
you something, right?
Yeah.
So him becoming a bar mitzvah to me is this, like, there was a before he was born and there was an after he was born to me, where I learned something about love when he was born. I learned for the first time, like, what it meant to love another human in that way. And he didn't need to be my child to feel that kind of love, right? To feel this, like, full body, unconditional, like, I would do anything for this human kind of feeling. And I remember the first time I met him so clearly, and for him to be at this age is really huge for me. And so it's an emotional weekend. My brother's on his way to town right now as we speak with his daughter. And it's just we're a close family, and um I give my parents a lot of credit for that. So grew up grew up in Rhode Island, went to Northeastern in Boston, didn't know what I wanted to do with my career, but and so I chose, organizational communication because I didn't want to be pigeonholed in a particular industry, um, and felt I could use that anywhere. And then went into advertising, and was a little bit more of a late bloomer than I think some of my friends or even my sister was. Right, like she was married. I think she was just shy of her 26th birthday,
Okay.
whereas, I had broken up with a very long-term boyfriend around the same time in my life and spent, my mid and late 20s on the single side, right? Like, took me a little longer to figure out where I was going and who I was going there with, right?
Yeah.
And then I started my career in advertising and got really bored, to be honest, just like making recommendations to other people about their businesses. And had a mentor who said to me, you really should go to a startup if you're going to work this hard. Go to a startup, get some equity, be an owner of that business. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And found myself at Uber in 2013. I had taken,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I had taken an Uber ride and thought, oh, wow, this is magic. And I thought that, like, this is going to be big. And I, you know, took a pay cut to go there, get some equity, and worked my tushy off. Like, I worked like 80 to 100 hours a week for the first couple years
My God.
and loved every second of it. Like, it's a good thing I was single because I had no time for anything in my life outside of it. And I then saw an opportunity for Uber to get into healthcare. Saw that Uber, millions of people miss a doctor's appointment every year because they don't have access to a reliable ride. Uber had reliable rides in spades. And so I pitched our executive leadership team on a business line called Uber Health. And after a bunch of no's, got a yes. And pitched that business line. We launched it in 2018. It was a massive business within 18 months. So
Wow.
while I was building that, it was, I think we reached over 10 million patients with that business line. So I sort of got hooked on this idea of, like, wow, you can take existing ingredients, put them together in a new way, and solve really big problems in healthcare. Like, that feels really good on the inside of who I am. Like, I feel like I'm doing good. It's good for business when
Yep.
you can make a business work, and, like, it's good for the like, wow, like, there's something really fulfilling and satisfying about this kind of impact work because of the scale it can have, right? I think I always thought that, like, impact had to come from a nonprofit, and I learned that actually you can probably have more impact faster if you do it from within a not like a for-profit company. And so
I
that
I I
yeah,
I was gonna say, I just find that fascinating, just the idea of, like, how much impact
yeah,
you had in such a short amount of time. I mean,
exactly.
getting millions of people to doctor's appointments, I mean,
Yeah,
it's mind-blowing,
yeah. Oh, yeah,
mind-blowing.
exactly. And so
I yeah.
true, change from within a for-profit company can be mission driven.
Yeah.
So that's that narrative arc of my life, and I was building Uber Health. I remember going on my first date with my now husband. On the first date, I told him this crazy idea I had at Uber, and I remember feeling like I could talk to him about the hardest part of my day and knowing like, well, that's what I want in a partner. That's what I'm looking for in this person I want to build my life with, right? Whether the hardest part of my day is work related or family or friend, whatever it is, that's what I would need in a partner. And so I was so excited because I had, waited for the right person and it appeared in him. And it had turned out that we had gone to Northeastern at the same time and just didn't know each other and met in San Francisco.
I love that.
Um,
That's amazing.
and
That's amazing.
actually, you'll laugh at this, his dating profile, it said what my religion means to me, and he wrote food, especially matzo ball soup. Um, and I just knew, I was like, "Yep, he's the one. He's it. He's it." Um, and within a couple months of pitching Uber Health, I became a patient myself. And this is where cofertility comes in. So I became a patient myself. I woke up one morning with a pain in my side and went to my doctor, and they're like, oh, maybe it's your appendix. Like, let's send you for an ultrasound. Went for an ultrasound, was not my appendix, but they saw something that needed further imaging. So went in for a CT scan. And it appeared to them that I had masses growing everywhere throughout my abdomen and pelvis. And they thought I had like horrible ovarian cancer.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And I was living in San Francisco at the time, and I'll never forget, they said, where does your closest family member live? And I said, oh, she lives in LA. My sister lives in LA. And they were like, great, have her fly up tomorrow to go to the oncologist with you. And I'm
Oh,
29 at the time. Sh- Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my goodness. I mean, on some level, I know the end of this story
Yeah.
because you and I are sitting here,
Yeah.
but uh,
Yeah.
I, I'm,
Yeah.
my mouth is open.
Yeah. Yeah. So they said, have her fly up. And I remember she had like a little, like a toddler and, a baby at home. And they said she needs to fly up tomorrow to go to the oncologist with you. And the only thing I could think to ask was, will I have kids someday? Not, will I live? Like, I didn't like compute to ask that. The thing that came to mind was, will I have kids someday? And the doctor said to me, maybe you'll be a unicorn.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, because like he said that, why?
So she said that to me.
He, sorry, look at me with my own bias, and
Yeah, I
I'm a
know,
physician
I
myself.
know,
Yeah, go
I know.
ahead.
So
Yeah.
she said to me, maybe you'll be a unicorn because it would only be a rare and mystical, unexplainable, like miracle if I lived and or was able to have a baby after what she was seeing on the imaging. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the next day, my sister flew up. We went to the oncologist, and I remember like it was very out of body for me. thankfully she was there to like ask questions and help me figure it out. And that was a Wednesday. And they said on Friday, we need to do a diagnostic surgery where we go in and figure that out. Your parents should fly here from Rhode Island. So they flew to San Francisco. And I remember signing paperwork that said, take my ovaries if you need to, take my uterus if you need to, take my fallopian tubes if you need to. Yeah.
Wow. Like, and my guess is that they had you sign this paperwork thinking cancer has spread so far at that point, you'd much rather have them take out as much as possible as opposed to leave those in,
Right.
even if it meant that you wouldn't have children.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So I signed the paperwork because I believed that I wanted them to prioritize me living, right? Over hypothetical children someday, right? And had the surgery the next day. And I remember waking up and they said, it is not ovarian cancer, but you are one of 154 people on the planet to ever get this super rare abdominal disease. It's called multicystic peritoneal mesothelioma.
Oh,
Total mouthful, but I had cystic like masses everywhere throughout my abdomen and pelvis. And it's debated in the literature whether they're considered benign or low grade cancer. There's not enough people who've gotten it for them to even decide or like care enough to decide. But the problem is that if left there, it can cut off the functioning of organs. And in the literature, there's a tiny percentage of people that it did spontaneously transform to be like super malignant cancer. And
Mm.
so, yeah. So
So,
they
so this was good
definitely good
news,
news. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Definitely good news,
Right.
but left me with way more questions than I imagined. Right.
Yeah.
And this doctor, she was lovely and brilliant. And she said to me, look, I've never seen this before. We're so lucky that the pathologist who was working today had seen this once before in his 30-year career, that he was able to diagnose it that quickly. Most people, it takes years to diagnose. And so I remember feeling like first relief, definitely, but then set on this path of like discovery, right? Like and what I learned about myself in this process is that I am like a no stone left unturned person, right? I am relentless. I do not give up. And so this was in a time before AI and ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity, which now I'm so excited about for people with rare diseases, right? Like,
Yeah.
of course, it makes mistakes and it's not perfect, but the information that I can find about my insanely rare disease is so instantaneous compared to what I went through, which at the time was I was researching as someone who had no medical background other than building Uber Health, right? No medical background, looking at PubMed and buying
God.
$40 articles to figure out like which physicians had ever seen this disease, and it built a spreadsheet basically of who the physicians were they in the US, were they still practicing, and calling their offices and making appointments to figure out what I was living with and what I would be up against with this disease. And so, my sister, I remember she flew to Washington, D.C. with me to meet with a doctor who had seen, almost 20 of the 154 patients. And he was like, you're going to need more surgeries. This is a disease you're going to have to watch for the rest of your life. And there is a chance in this surgeries that you'll lose your ovaries. Like that's where this disease like wants to live, basically. And I was like, well, can I freeze my eggs? Right? Like, I want
Yeah.
that option. And what I decided to do was find a reproductive endocrinologist, fertility doctor who specialized in rare diseases and cancers. Because what I had learned was most doctors had never heard of my disease. Right. And it doesn't feel good when you meet a doctor who's never heard of it or who hears you name a disease and looks at you with like terror and fear, right? And so this to me was a lesson, I think, in patient advocacy of oneself, which is like make sure the doctor that you meet on the other side doesn't look at you like you're an alien, you know? And so I
Or
found
look at the things in your body like they are aliens. Yeah.
exactly. And so I found Dr. Mitch Rosen at UCSF who looked at me and was like, oh, cool. Like, interesting. Let's figure this out together. You know, like
I love that.
I
Oh,
needed that so much
oh,
because
so great.
I that's the energy I needed, right? Like, yes, let's go figure this out. And he was like, look, your disease is so rare, I'm not freezing your eggs. He's like, I'm not injecting your abdomen with hormones when we don't know if this disease is hormone related. Like, we don't know anything about it. We are not injecting your abdomen with hormones. I was like, what? Like, well, then how will I have children if I lose my ovaries? And he was the first to ever bring up egg donation to me. It's like, you may need donor eggs. And I truly, this is laughable, but my only exposure at this point in my life to egg donation was I remembered Rachel Berry on Glee. I don't know if you know that show,
Oh my God. Hold on. We have to take 5 seconds just to talk about Glee. Okay. I love Glee.
right?
Every single episode, total big
Yes.
fan. Okay. I'm like gleeking myself out now.
Yes.
Okay. Keep going.
Okay.
Sorry. Had to
But
just take a moment.
and I'm such an Idina Menzel fan, right?
Oh, I
So like
mean,
the fact that Idina Menzel, who, let's be honest, Leah Michelle really looks like, acts like,
totally.
whatever, was the egg donor was like just the coolest narrative arc to me ever as like,
Yeah. So these are characters on the show Glee, one
anyway,
of the
yes.
mother and the
Yeah.
daughter, and use the
Yeah.
donor egg and all the
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
my only exposure to it, right? That like, oh, same-sex male couples use an egg donor to have a baby. That makes sense. I had not really thought about the fact that a woman might use an egg donor, right? And so he said this to me, and I
Hold on.
remember,
Hold on. I'm just
yeah,
going to stop you for a second because I realized we didn't explain that fully if people
yes,
didn't watch
sorry,
the show. No,
yes,
so Rachel Berry, who is Leah Michelle, that's the name of the
y-
actress. She was brought up by two gay dads,
yes,
and her dads don't sing, and she has this incredible voice. And it came out that Adina Menzel, who's an incredible singer, it was her egg that
yeah,
was fertilized with these sperm, and so that's how she
yes.
exists in that family. Okay, sorry, I had to
No, I
just
love
wanted to give a further explanation for the
exactly,
people who
exactly.
just
I don't think I've ever told this story, by the way, anyway, like with the Rachel Berry part of this, but that was
oh,
my only like context, right? And so
great, love it.
I am a planner, if that wasn't obviously clear to you. And so I remember going home from that doctor's appointment thinking, like, I have to know everything there is to know about egg donation. So I went home and I couldn't believe what I saw. I couldn't believe it, right? What I saw was an insanely outdated and antiquated, icky space. I couldn't believe that there are so many things I couldn't believe, but one, donors are paid cash compensation to donate, and that cash compensation goes up and up and up depending on their heritage, their race, their religion, their education, their talents, their like pedigree,
Yep.
right? And if I wanted someone who reflected my background, right, because it would be harder to find a Jewish donor, that meant the cash compensation was higher, right? Or then I saw, like, if you're looking for an Asian donor, that's higher. If you're like, whatever it is, if it's harder to find, it goes up. And I was like, whoa, they're surge pricing for egg donors, right? And to
Yeah.
me, I thought, like, well, we don't do that for organ donation. We don't do that for blood donation. Like, why is that okay here? I also thought it was crazy that donors were billed as anonymous when this was 2017 and 23andMe was like already pretty pervasive. Ancestry.com was everywhere. It's like, if genetics, if like everybody knows who their DNA relatives are today, imagine 20 years from now when a child grows up, like no donation is anonymous. Like
Yeah.
this is a lie. Like why are they pretending? Right?
Yeah.
I also thought it was crazy that there were no limits to the number of families a single donor could donate to, right? And we see this with like Netflix sperm donor documentaries, right?
Yeah.
But the same goes for egg donation, where a single donor goes through these egg banks, try to have her do like 6 cycles, and each cycle could be divided into cohorts of 6. And so if she has 30 eggs, her eggs could go to like 5 plus families per retrieval, and she's doing it 6 times. That's 30 families. Like, that's if you're thinking that she may like, the donor and the donor-conceived children may be in touch someday, it's, like, absolutely untenable to expect a donor to do that if there are 30 families, right? And so I just felt really turned off by everything I saw. I also some egg banks were like, "Here's a spreadsheet of our donors, and everything you'll learn about the donors in this row on a spreadsheet," or like glamour shots of like models, and you're like, "Is this really who they're saying it?" Like, it just didn't feel real. And so I remember calling my sister and telling her about it, and she was like, "Lauren, I would give my left arm if it meant you could be a mom someday." And she's left-handed, so that's a big
Oh,
one. And so she decided that she would fly to San Francisco with Dr. Rosen and that she would freeze her eggs and donate them to me in case I needed them someday. And so
wow.
what she did. And I ended up going through 2 more surgeries after that. Really long recoveries, like was in the hospital for 2 weeks each time with long recoveries. By some miracle, I did not lose my ovaries in the process. My surgeon was able to preserve my ovaries. And they ended up doing something called HIPEC, which is like a heated chemo wash of your abdomen. And so we didn't know if I'd be able to conceive unassisted anyway afterward. And so I really did feel a lot of peace of mind knowing those eggs were there, right? Like, regardless of not losing my ovaries, like I still didn't know if they'd work. So like I really did have that peace of mind. And then when we were ready, my doctor said you have to wait a year before you try, given there was chemo in your system. And then he said, try for 6 months. If you're not pregnant after 6 months, come see me and we'll talk about using your sister's eggs. And so we tried, we tried. Of course, I made an appointment for like the day after my sixth cycle period, right? Like,
Right.
so because I'm a planner.
Yep.
And on the 6th month, I conceived unassisted without
Oh,
using my sister's eggs and had to cancel that appointment for the best reason possible.
oh, wow.
And I now wear a unicorn ring right here because I am a unicorn, right? And my daughter was born in May of 2021, and she is a total miracle. And it's like the craziest thing. And so when I held her in my arms, I remember thinking, after almost 9 years at Uber, it was time to move on and that I wanted to build something in this space. For me, I just like didn't want to, I knew I was not cut out to be someone who stayed at home with my kids and that like I just needed to do something. And I couldn't think of any other way I wanted to spend my time than helping more people have babies.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I pause you just for a
Yeah.
second? Just because like, I'm sitting here in this space of like, the initial part of the conversation where you shared that your doctor said, yeah, you could be a unicorn, and here you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wondering, what was it like? Like, just in all of that waiting and the emotions of will it, won't it, should
Yeah.
I, shouldn't I? Like, how was your husband during all of
Yeah.
this? Like, the
Yeah.
rest of your family? Like,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
Well, he is like, I knew probably like first date that he was the one, but I think that he ended up meeting my family, my parents, way sooner than ever expected because of this diagnosis and this first
Yeah.
surgery that I had. And and then when he, like, basically spent every night in the hospital with me, that'll show you, like, who someone is, right? And so I knew pretty quickly that if we can get through hard stuff like this and like each other even more, like, we're onto something and that life is gonna be just fine with him.
Yeah.
Um, but I think what I learned for me is that, and I see this now so much with so many of our intended parents actually, this this idea, especially in family building, where like you are grieving and um going through something super emotional and have fear and are scared, but you also have to hold space for hope. And then you also have to move the ball forward because time is of the essence, right? And so you're tasked with like doing a lot, like
Yeah.
the emotional journey of it and the logistics of I have to try for 6 months. I have to, I have to count the days till ovulation and I have to do all these things. And I have to go see this doctor and I have to do this. And I to like put one foot in front of the other and just follow that next step, that next step, that next step for me actually helped with the emotional side of what I was going through because it gave me something that I could do. It gave me something that I could feel a sense of control about, of like, I'm taking this next step, I'm taking this next step, I'm taking this next step. And so um that worked for me. Um and it still does when I face things that feel hard. Um for me, like the only way out is through. Right? And so I'm like, "Let's do this. We're going through it. Like, we will get to the other side. We just don't know what the outcome's gonna be, but we gotta get there." And so I just kinda go for it with things like that.
Yeah, I love that, and I think also it's so like, it's so practical, like, so practical for people because I think so many people and so many times, like, honestly, there is the luxury of, like, "Okay, we're gonna take a couple months off. Okay, like, I need to reset. Okay." And, like, the problem is that when you're running out of time, whatever that means, and, like, for every person, it's different. Maybe it's
Yeah,
age, or maybe it's a medical diagnosis like you
yeah,
had, or, uh, whatever, job, or you're running out of
yeah,
money, whatever it is, when you're
yeah.
running out of time,
Something. Yes.
something, when you're running out of it, that you have to make choices. You have to make those choices and move the needle forward,
Yeah,
because if you don't, then that's also a choice.
it is. And you have to live with that choice.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I love that, and also I'm sure that as you were saying, just the practicalities of needing to move the needle forward also I'm sure was a very good distraction for you in the meantime and held your emotions in check.
Exactly. Yep. It's a distraction. It's a distraction with something that feels in your control when so much else doesn't, right? I had no control over the fact that I'm one of 154 people on the planet that are navigating this thing, right? Like, no control over the fact that I found one other person to talk to who had this disease. Um, no control over the fact that, like, my ovaries may or may not do what they're supposed to do, right? But I did have control over what appointments I made and which doctors I talked to and how we got there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
and these are the things that, like, everybody has different things that keeps them
yeah,
sane,
yep,
and this was it for you.
yeah,
But
totally.
so tell me,
Yeah,
okay, so you were like, "Okay,
yeah.
you have your daughter,"
You have this
and
baby. Yeah. So I will
first of
say,
all, hold on, just
yeah,
what's her name?
Eden.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay, so Eden was how old when you started to get this itch of like, "I need to do something with this?"
She was 4 months old. So I would say no. She was like 3 months old when I decided I have to leave Uber, it's time. I had read a book that completely changed my life called Super Attractor by Gabby Bernstein.
Okay, we'll link that in the show notes. You'll
Yeah.
send it to me afterwards. Keep going.
And this book for me helped me to understand that there are certain things that are in my control, certain things that are not, and that I get to sort of co-create my reality with the universe, right? I could talk about that all day, but it really helped me from like a mindset standpoint. And I just knew that I had to let go of what I was doing at Uber for the right thing to come in. And so I did that. I gave notice without a plan. Very hard for me, but I did it. I did not put it on LinkedIn or Instagram or anything when I got a DM on Instagram from my now co-founder we had met each other a few times in the space, in like the digital health space. And we, she said, I heard you're fundraising. I was like, what? She's like, how's fundraising going? Cause she's like an investor in her path. They're like, whatever. And I was like, I'm not fundraising, but if any of your portfolio companies are hiring, like I really want to build something in fertility or in reproductive health. I just gave notice at Uber and I don't have a plan. She was like, what? You're on the market? I was like, yeah. And she's like, what's your phone number? I'm calling you. And I remember showing my husband the phone, being like, oh my God, Hallie Tecco is calling me. Like, she is someone I long admired, like a total role model to me. And she told me that she had been sitting on this idea at the intersection of egg freezing and egg donation. And the timing never felt right, but the time felt right now. And essentially, what the idea was is around a concept called egg sharing, which is this idea that a woman can freeze her eggs for free when she donates half of the eggs retrieved to intended parents that need the help of an egg donor to have a baby. What Hallie didn't know at the time was that I had been through this whole health journey and that my sister had donated eggs to me. Despite the fact that I didn't end up using them, I still had gone through that process of like, what does it mean to grieve your genetics? What does it mean to go through a process of egg donation and sign the legal paperwork and do all of that stuff and to receive these eggs and then to have peace of mind of frozen eggs, right? So Hallie didn't know any of that. And when I told her, she was like, this is it. Like, we have to do this. And you have to be the CEO, and I will be the chair of the board, and we'll go run at this. And I thought she was crazy. It's like, never be a CEO. What are you talking about? And she convinced me. And I'm so glad she did. And we have been building Cofertility ever since.
Hi, everyone. It's Amy. I just wanted to take a quick moment to say that if talking away the taboo means something to you, if you've listened to an episode and felt less alone, more seen, or more understood, please support us so we can continue doing this important work. Everything we offer, this podcast, our support groups, our resources, all of them are completely free. And that's intentional, actually, because we never want someone to have to choose between getting help and affording it. But truthfully, we can't do this without your help. So if you're in a position to give even just a little, it really helps keep us going. It helps someone else find the support that they need too. So please donate at iwassupposedtohaveababy.org/donate. It's really easy and it really makes a difference. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being part of this community. Okay, so You just shared it very simplistically, but I want to like
Yeah.
delve into this a little bit
Yeah,
more.
sure.
I mean, the standard model, I mean, we're talking about egg donation,
Yeah.
egg freezing and egg donation.
Yeah.
The standard model
Yeah.
for, any person across the world is that when you want to freeze your eggs, that it costs a certain amount of money, and you go, you either have that money or you don't have that money, but you go to your doctor and you get a price tag and you're like, oh, I guess I can do this. I can only maybe do this once, or maybe I can't do it at all. And oh, well, I guess I can't have this happen for me. Sometimes insurance pays partial, sometimes not. But that's the general kind of process that happens. Am I missing a piece?
Um, the general process, an intended parent finds out from their fertility doctor that they may need to use an egg donor, or if they're a same-sex male couple or a single parent, they knew they needed the help of a third person or a second person to have a baby, right? Um, and they start by looking for an egg donor. And you can do either fresh egg donation where you connect with the donor first and then she goes through the retrieval and you fertilize those eggs on the day of the retrieval, or frozen donation, which means she's already gone through that egg retrieval. The eggs are frozen and you get them after they've been frozen. And traditionally, before cofertility, the intended parent, as part of what they're paying for, is paying cash compensation to the donor. And it's done under the promise of anonymity. And it is done without a family limit, right? So there's nothing to say that this donor isn't donating to a lot of families. And frankly, she's incentivized to do so because this becomes an income source for her. And what intended parents find is a very major lack of diversity amongst donors, just given who the model attracts. Um, and they find that it's like not really in alignment with how they want to grow their family. So it's already something that wasn't plan A, wasn't plan B.
Right.
They're already on what is plan C or D or Z at this point, who knows,
Yeah.
right? And to feel like they're doing it with a model that like feels icky to them, like sucks. Like I don't know any other way to say it. Like it
Yeah.
really is unfortunate, right?
Is
And
is
so
the I is the yucky part of it, like, just to, like, needle down on it for a second, is the yucky part for the intended parent, is the yucky part that they wish that there were more choices, that they could find someone who was more similar to them or had a different profile? What is I mean,
yeah,
obviously, there are a lot of yucky
no, I
parts. They
think
wish they could be doing it
yeah,
themselves, but they're
yeah.
not, right? It's plan Z.
It's
But
yeah,
what do you think it's like, the crux of the issue is?
it's 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 so hard for me to distill it into one thing,
Yeah,
but I do think it's rooted in cash compensation and what that leads to, right? I think yes, there's a lack of options, right? So lack of options that reflect their background, which that's what most intended parents want, right? A donor that reflects their background. There's a lack of options. It is hard to find a donor who feels like you or your background or someone who could be your little sister when the model is such that it is a cash incentivized thing where it's an income source. It
yeah,
just doesn't align. And the feeling that you may never meet the donor or the donor goes through this process and I saw this yesterday. There are egg banks out there that tout the fact that, oh, this donor won't even know if a baby is born from this donation. And they
wow,
brag about it to the intended parent. Whereas, like, if I were the intended parent, I'd actually be like disgusted by that. Like,
yeah,
what? Like, she should know if there is a child born from her eggs, and she should have the ability, if she wants to have some information or not, right?
yeah,
And I'm I just think that like it's 2026, right? Like let's let's not bury our heads in the sand about what this is, right? And let's bring it into the light and Let's stop feeling shame and stigma around what is a beautiful thing, growing your family and someone being kind enough to share their eggs to do that, right? Like, there is no shameful path to parenthood. And yet, the model here has made it feel shameful and it has made it feel stigmatized. And I'm so tired of it. Like, I can't anymore. I'm so, like, past it. And so, what we've built is recognizing the fact that we believe anyone who wants to be a parent deserves to be a parent. And for that to be true, third party reproduction, egg donation specifically, needs to exist, right? If it needs to exist, let's do it in the most ethical, thoughtful, modern way that we can. And so that's what we built, right? So our model gets rid of cash compensation. Instead, the donor is freezing and storing her eggs for up to 10 years at no cost to her. And the intended parent, it has access to more options, diverse options, and women who are going through this as a way to proactively think about their own fertility and help someone else grow their family at the same time. And we add family limits. So we say no donor can donate to more than 3 families through Cofertility because we know that anonymity is not a thing, right? We know that she may be in touch with the families later, and we give her the option at the start, and we give the intended parents the option at the start if they want to be in touch. We offer disclosed relationships or not, but we know that, like, even if they're undisclosed and they don't share contact information now, they may want to be in touch later. So we self-impose that limit. Trust me, the economics of the business would be much better if we said 10 families, 6 families, whatever, but it feels untenable to expect any donor to agree to that. And so by nature of our model and by doing this and, like, putting the light here, we have the most amazing donors. They are insanely diverse. They come from, like, I think it's almost 300 ethnicities are represented on our platform.
Wow.
50% identify as women of color. 55% have a graduate degree or higher, like physicians, lawyers, like they are so ambitious and accomplished and women who are like pursuing their life on their own timeline. And this just enables that. And
Yeah.
so I think we are just attracting and growing the pie of women that are open and interested in egg donation because we're just doing it in a totally different way.
Yeah. I wonder, like, when I was speaking about it earlier, I was speaking about the model from the perspective of someone who's considering egg freezing, and that this process enables people to do this without having it cost any money.
Yeah.
So there's a financial boon to them as well.
Totally. Yeah. So on the egg freezing side, we are increasing access, right? Like we always joke, I mean, it's not a joke. It's one of the saddest ironies ever that the best time to freeze your eggs is when you can least afford it,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
better your egg quality, the better your egg quantity. It's just when you're least likely to have $15,000 laying around. And so by removing the cost there and saying, hey, you get to do this at no cost to you while you help another family grow or 2 or 3 families, like, how does that sound? You still have to clinically qualify and meet all of the ASRM and FDA criteria for egg
Yeah.
donation, but if we, like, go through this process of egg donation and do it in a way that feels really thoughtful and mindful, and how do you feel about it when cash isn't part of it? And it turns out more women are interested in this.
That's a fascinating piece of psychology, in that, like, people are seemingly more interested in preserving their own ability to have children at a time when it's more convenient for them, and still give the opportunity to other people to have children of their own. And like they're okay knowing that some piece of their genetics will be floating out there in the
Yeah.
world if it preserves their ability to have the family when they're ready. Like I find that
Yeah.
psychology fascinating.
When, and what we find is that the biggest stigma, I mean, one, I think a lot of women are off put by the idea of getting paid to donate their eggs. It makes them feel like they're selling their body, right?
Yeah.
So by removing that is a big piece of this. The second piece that I think really matters is that we found one of the stigmas around egg donation is this idea that like you could donate eggs and you could see someone walk down the street one day and she looks like you and wonder, is that the child born from my donation?
Yeah.
And that is a thing of the past when we have disclosed donation or we give you the opportunity to meet the intended parents as part of the process. Or what we find is that they decide, like, they agree, hey, once a year, you're going to send me an email with photos. Or once a year, like, we'll have a Zoom call or a text back and forth. Or the donor is going to let the recipient family know when she has her own children someday, right? Like,
Yeah.
to again bring it into the light and say this is not a black box, this is not a mystery, like know where your eggs are going, know how they do. So like we tell the donors, hey, these intended parents had a beautiful embryo and that embryo stuck and now they're pregnant, or these intended parents are expecting a baby in December, like how much more do you want to know? Right. And by doing that, we're really removing so much of the like weird feelings about it. Right. And I think one of the coolest things is that so you have to be 21 to 34 to donate eggs. And what I found is that this is like largely Gen Z and like the last of the millennials right now. And what's super interesting is that this is a generation that is so insanely understanding that the way we grow families today is more dynamic than it's ever been, right? They have seen Gen X and millennials struggle with getting and staying pregnant. They know that the donor conceived community is a big part of how, who's around them. They might be part of the LGBTQ community themselves and know that they need a third party to have a baby someday. And so they're just really open minded and they're also very service oriented. Like to them, and to so many of our Jewish donors, this is a mitzvah, like this is helping someone else. And you get to learn about your own egg quality in the process, which is something most people who freeze eggs don't know much about because you put your eggs away and you know nothing about them at that point.
Yeah. In our initial conversation, I just kind of sat there a little bit with my mouth open, and I'm doing that a little bit now also because it is just it's really taking the shrouding and the secrecy and the taboo nature of so much of this and saying like this is happening, period. And because it's happening, how can we make this as best as possible for all people involved?
Yes. Yes.
It's it's just I hear lots and lots and lots of stories of people who don't want their children to know that they've
Yeah.
used a donor or, you know, intend to tell them at some point later on in life. And like, obviously these are not best practices at all. I mean, there's so much research out there now, especially from the psychology world, but even beyond in the donor conceived community about how important it is for children to know their origin story. And so that you don't give them a shock as they're getting older because their
Exactly.
whole identity can be completely uprooted.
Exactly. So there's so much. I mean, you just said it so perfectly. I don't even have to because you're so right. But if the how we got there felt less shameful, the sharing it becomes easier, right? And so I always say, like, oh, egg donation is fertility's last taboo, right? Like, we are so wonderfully open about miscarriage and IVF, which, by the way, I didn't share that story, but after having my first and starting Cofertility and bringing this business into the world, I was ready for baby number 2 and experienced secondary infertility, which is something I think not enough people know about, right? This idea that you get pregnant with baby number 1 and stay pregnant without issue. And so you have what to me felt in retrospect like a false sense of security that you are just not someone who experiences infertility because you didn't, right? And so you think, oh, that's not me. When the reality is that every pregnancy is different, but also you and your partner are older when you have subsequent children than you were with your first. And so we found it was much harder to get and stay pregnant and went back to my original reproductive endocrinologist who said, let's give one IVF cycle a try because, we know your body can handle the hormones after a pregnancy. So let's see. And we thankfully were successful with IVF. And I now have my second beautiful baby boy, or he's my second beautiful child who is a boy. Um, and, I just think about the fact that, like, how wonderful is it that, like, I openly share that he's an IVF baby and he'll always know he was an IVF baby. And that's not a secret, nor is it something I feel a type of way about, right? Like I'm proud and feel so grateful and lucky that that science technology exists and that we have the ability to pay for it and do it and that he is, you know, a living, breathing, healthy baby. And if I look at those two children next to each other, I could never guess which one was an IVF baby or not, right? And
Right.
like, how cool is it that speaking that openly about IVF and being able to tell, my in-laws and all these, people who I think might have once been like, oh, IVF, like now are like, oh, IVF, yeah. Like I read about it in the New Yorker, like it's
Yeah.
common, it's normal, whatever, right? Everybody does IVF. And that's because Gen X and millennials have been really open about it, right? And even surrogacy, people are open about, thank you, Kardashians, and
Yep.
partially because they have to be open about it. Because if you saw someone right before the baby was born, you knew whether or not they were pregnant or not, right?
Yep.
You don't have to be that open about having an egg donor or a sperm donor. And so people just don't share it. And so the more we can remove the shame and stigma around the how we got here, I think the more people will feel free and open about sharing it.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I'm curious, have there been any besides the crazies who I'm kind of going to put off to one side or the uber conservative
Yes.
people, let's call it.
Yeah.
I'll put them on the other side. I
Yeah.
mean, have there been any naysayers in this process, in this just this world
Yeah.
that you've heard of?
There Whenever you're doing something worth doing, there will always be naysayers, yeah.
Yeah.
So, for sure, we have, like, the complete crazies on both sides, actually. The complete people, extremists, but we have had people say, "Oh, like, are you taking advantage of women who, don't have finances to, offer them free egg freezing so they donate?" And to that, I say, why didn't you have a problem with them getting paid to do it and them getting paid to do it 6 times, right? Like, to me, that feels far more coercive than offering a woman the opportunity to freeze eggs for herself with 1 cycle or maybe 2 cycles, right? What?
Right. Right.
Like, I don't buy that for 1 second. Part of which I think is that, like, egg donation isn't for everybody, and no one is forcing them to do this. And so we only have the women do it who are interested and who want to do it, and they should have the right and autonomy over their own body to make that call. And I think
Yes.
anyone who calls that coercive is like deeply paternalistic and they aren't even like realizing it. So
Yes.
these women are of sound mind. They go through a psychological evaluation. They go through a really thorough screening process. They meet with a lawyer. They like really are making a choice and they understand the implications of that choice. And if they didn't understand those implications, they would not make it through the screening process.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
look, I mean, it is the process has been inherently flawed, and yet people were still, you know, harvesting eggs, so to speak, and, getting sperm donations and all these other pieces. And yet, if people are going to be doing it anyway, because this is where medicine is going, people are older and older are coming in and wanting to have children. They're wanting to carry pregnancies in their own body. Surrogacy is even more expensive. And
yeah.
so this enables people to do that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be for everyone. Like that's my feeling, right? Like I remember in the very early days with Uber, they were like, "Oh, you want me to get in a car with a stranger?" And it's like,
Right. Oh God,
right,
right.
if you don't want to, don't get in the car, right? Like
Yeah.
that's your choice. If you prefer to go in a taxi, like do it, right? Like you do you. And so I see the way that we're showing up as like this is an option for people who want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like it works for a lot of people and I love and the idea that like I mean now my almost 5-year-old tells people my mommy helps people have babies and like
Oh God, that's so
it's
great.
the best. This is what I get to do with my time and I wouldn't have it any other way.
And then people are like, "Oh, she's an OBGYN?"
Like not quite, right?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Lauren, I this has been a just an absolutely fascinating, deeply important, and just really enlightening conversation. I think just to have for people to know that there are choices
Yeah.
and that this exists. I was so, as I said in the beginning, I was so struck by this
Oh,
concept, by your
thank you.
model. And so I'll ask you just one final question.
Yeah.
I mean, which I think probably is obvious, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Look, there are lots and lots and lots of people in the world who just like the fact that they even have to think about using a donor egg is
Yeah.
just super scary for them. They
Totally.
can't get beyond that, the fact that at least one half, maybe the other half also, but we're just talking
Yep.
about the eggs here now. At least one half of their genetics is not going to be theirs.
Yep.
And like they can't get like I'm even if the baby looks like me, even if it's from the same background, ancestry, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Like I'm just not gonna love this baby as much as I would love a
Yeah.
baby with my own biology. And I wonder if you could just speak to that for a
Oh my
second.
gosh. Yes. So I will tell you that one of the privileges of this role has been the amount of people I meet who share with me the fact that their children were born via donor eggs, right? So whether it was, did happen at my dentist when she leaned over and told me, well, my son is donor conceived, but no one
Oh,
in the
wow.
family is on, right? But I had an experience where I was at it was like a women's founder dinner and I was sharing what cofertility is and this woman came up to me and she said, "When I saw you were going to be here, I had to come because I'm so excited about what you're building. And I just have to tell you that as a mom of three, she has 3 kids, I think, from maybe age like 8 to 12. She said, as a mom of three who used donor eggs, who felt shame and secrecy and stigma about it, if I could go back in time and use my own eggs to have children now, there is absolutely no chance I would. She was like, these 3 children are the most like incredible, amazing humans on the planet, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. Like, these are the 3 kids I was meant to have. And I'll never get over it. I'll never get over it, right? Like, she was like, they were mine from the minute they were born.
I mean, what's there even to say? I mean,
Yeah.
what's there even to say? It is, I, I sometimes ask these questions to people and they look at me funny, like, I adopted, or I'm a foster parent, or, my brother died and I'm taking care of their kids. Like it
Yep.
just, love is love is love, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just when you care about people, you care about people. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what their genetics are.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Lauren, this was such an incredible conversation. Thank you
We'll have
so.
to go work now.
Look, I don't know how any of us are going to work now, but I
And I'll tell you that the best part of what I do, we have like a channel that is just looking at the cofertility babies that are born. It's like
oh
as soon as a baby's born, we get a photo and like the whole team is like it's the best. So
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's
yeah.
a real gift. I mean, you have trailblazed not only into Uber, but here as well, and just providing access for so many more people to be able to have children. It's really incredible. And again, this was not a commercial. This
No.
was not
No.
obviously, yes, we'll have the links so you can reach out
Sure.
to Lauren and
Yeah.
Cofertility. Yes, we'll have that, but this was more just I was just so so like taken with this story and wanting to share it with more people, as
Thank
like
you.
one of our jobs here at I Was Supposed to Have a Baby is to support people emotionally who are going through all kinds of fertility challenges.
Totally.
And if I can show people another way, I just said, oh, more people need to know about this. More people need to know.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any comments about this episode or would like to suggest a future episode, please reach out at 917-382-0422 or send us an email at info@iwassupposedtohaveababy.org or info@iwsthab.org. And please don't forget to like, rate, and review so we can continue spreading the support to the wider Jewish community.